Dear fellow coders, welcome to One Little Coder. Writing in English without grammatical mistake is a tough job, especially if you're a non-native English speaker. You might struggle a lot, and that's where plugins like Grammarly come into picture. So Grammarly is this plugin or service that you can use on your browser, Firefox, Chrome, or anywhere. And when you type something, it's going to actually help you correct it. So I've typed a sentence saying when I does something, it or always for your good. So Grammarly is telling me that it is when I do, and it is not it are. So this service helps me write without grammatical mistakes, so that the ultimate document that I write is free from grammatical issues. But the problem is a service like Grammarly wouldn't offer an API, and a lot of similar services do not have a free open source API. So you might end up seeing a paid API to fix grammar, especially English grammar, but you may not see an open source Grammarly API. So what we are going to do in this video is build an open source Grammarly API alternative with Gramformer and Fast API. So what we are simply going to do is we are going to give a sentence to this API, and that API is going to correct the sentence and give it back to us, and that is going to be the end product. So this video you are going to see three main parts. So the first part is where we are going to introduce all the libraries that we are going to use in this video, and then the second part is where we are going to actually build a script that will help us correct the grammar mistake. And then the third part is where we are going to take the script and then serve it as an API. So if you are interested in only the API section, I'll link the timestamp. You can directly go ahead there. But if you want to watch the entire thing, you're free to start from now. So the first most important package that we want for this grammar correction is called Gramformer. So Gramformer is a new library by Prithviraj Damodaran. So this library is quite simple to use. So the documentation tells you where you can use Gramformer. So Gramformer could, like in our case, we are simply using it to correct the grammar, but the developer has mentioned that where you want to use this to correct the grammar. The first thing is post-processing machine learning text. So when machine learning model generates text, which is quite common, like with GPT-Neo, GPT-3, GPT-2 models, all these models generating text, sometimes you want to make sure that the text is even if it is syntactically correct, it is semantically correct. So you want to make sure both these aspects are good. So for you to do that, sometimes you need to do a simple grammatical check, and that is one area where this could be used. And then the second thing is, of course, it's called human in the loop. So when you have chatbots, sometimes you need humans in the middle of the loop to fix grammatical errors, or create labels or create some text. So that is another aspect where Gramformer could be used. Another third area where Gramformer could be used is our use case, which is like a Grammarly alternative. So if you have, instead of using a Grammarly system, you can actually use this API to make calls and then ultimately build a service on top of it. And that is the final use case, which is you can have your own service where you can have an API, send this text, get the corrected text, and then ultimately show this thing, which is more like grammar correction as a service, which could also become your new startup if you want to start a startup with NLP and machine learning. So what are we going to do? The usage is quite simple. The first step is we have to install this library. Pip install, get the latest library, latest release from the GitHub of the user. So I'm going to copy this entire thing, and just for your information, I'm running this entirely completely on CPU, not GPU. Okay, I'm just connecting my machine, Colab machine, Google Colab machine. So this is the first library that we need. The second library that we need is Fast API. Fast API does not need any introduction, so it is quite popular, and then you can definitely have a look at like Fast API documentation, which is quite intuitive. So what is Fast API? Fast API is I should say a Flask alternative, but these days Fast API is quite popular, so I don't know whether it really makes sense still for me to say it as a Flask alternative. But given that a lot of Python developers still use Flask to create APIs for Python, their Python solutions or systems, Fast API is a service similar to that, where you can take your code, the code that you have built, like the Python code, and then with a couple of decorators, you can actually convert into an API. You can offer this service the code's content, or whatever the execution as an API. So it's very simple to use, and that is how we are going to serve our Gramformer model as an API. And then the third package that we are going to use in this case is Colab Code. So why do we need Colab Code? Because we are coding on Google Colab, just to make the environment simple. So we are going to serve the model directly from Google Colab. So the fast API, you can actually serve it from your local machine, but usually when you want to do it, you have to deploy it on a server. But to avoid that, or to bypass that, and then have Google Colab as our server, backend server for this fast API service, we are using Colab Code. So these are the three libraries or packages that we need. The first one is Gramformer, the second one is Fast API, and the third one is Colab Code. So let's get started and understand how we are going to do this thing. So because I'm going to show you only the grammar correction part at the start, I'm going to install only the Gramformer. So I'm going to install Gramformer in the quiet mode, and then let's run it. And you can see that this doesn't take a lot of time to get installed. So that is the first step for us to install. Once that is installed, let us create a sample grammar correction script which we can use anytime later. So the second step is import Gramformer and also import Torch, and then also set a seed value for you to reproduce your results. So run it. And then the third step is you initiate the Gramformer model, which means you're going to download some pre-trained models, and you can understand what are these values mean on Gramformer documentation, which is quite out of scope of this video, so I'm not going to focus on those individual parameters. So I'm assigning it to GF, which I'm thinking it's called Gramformer. So run this. At this point, it's going to download a lot of pre-trained models, and then you can see it's downloading the models, and these are PyTorch models, and it's going to get saved as GF. So because we are going to build an API, which means we don't have to really download model every single time. So what we are going to do next is we are going to define a path where we want to save the model. So there is a path like sample data by default, a default directory. So what we are going to do here is take this model that we just downloaded, PyTorch model, and save it in this particular path, so that when we want to use it for API, just to serve as an API, we don't have to really download the model every time. We can just simply do it once, like load the model for inference. So at this point, it says Gramformer grammar error correction model has been loaded. So now I'm going to define a path where this model I wanted to save. So next step is I'm going to save Torch save, and then the model name, the object name, and also the path where I wanted to save. So this would take a little bit of time for it to load, but after that you can see, okay, gf.pth is saved. Now whenever you want to do inference, you can actually load gf, or you can save it like gf underscore inference. Right now at this point you don't have to necessarily say load it, you can still use gf, but I'm just showing you, you can do gf underscore inference so that the saved model is loaded and it works properly. So now I just loaded the saved model. So we saved the model in gf.pth, and then we just loaded gf.pth model, and that is now assigned to gf underscore inference object. So the next step is you specify a couple of sentences in you want to specify a couple of input sentences where you want it to work. So I'm going to go with the same example that I started with, which is when I do something, it are always for your good. So I have this sentence first, and then I have got another sentence that says this is not how I like to eat food, but that is what life gives me. So if you are quite familiar, you know that this is not how I like to eat food, but that is what life gives me. So this is the correction ideally this should make. So let us try to see what it happens. The next step is we take this input sentence, whatever we have given, and then we iterate it, and then for every sentence we are going to pass it on to the correct method. So gf, in this case where we have got model and we are saying correct, and then save the corrected sentence here, and then we are going to pick the top sentence. So let's run this. Oops, there is an error. Okay, because I didn't run this influence sentence, and then run the corrected sentence. So at this point, for when I does something, so it has fixed it. When I do something, it is always for your good. And for the second sentence, it is also fixed it. This isn't how I like to eat food, but that's what life gives me. So ultimately, for the two sentences, it has very successfully corrected the sentence and fixed the error whatever we had. In fact, for that matter, a grammatical mistake like eight fixing to eat is not something a simple rule based system can do it easily. So if you want, we can just try with one more sentence, but now maybe instead of using GF, we can use GF inference, and then we can give a different sentence. So what do I give? So I can say I'm trying to fix grammatical. Okay, this is not going to help. I can simply say India is the best country. India is a better country, probably I should say. India is the good country for cricket games. I'm not sure if it will work. I'm just trying my luck. India is a good country for cricket games. So it has done its job to make this sentence grammatically correct. So one more thing I can say is US, United States has offer help to India. Okay, let's run this and then see what it shows. So the United States has offered help to India. So you can see that this is fixed. So basically at this point we are very sure that whatever we have built works very successfully at a script level. So our next section, we are going to go to the final section of this video, which is how do we take this script that we have built and then serve it as an API. And for that we need two libraries, which is one is Colab Code to serve this API from Google Colab, and second Fast API to actually build this API. So let's install Colab Code and Fast API. At this point, Colab Code and Fast API gets installed. So you don't need Colab Code if you're going to use it on your local machine, but because I'm using it on Colab Code, I'm using it on Google Colab, I'm using Colab Code. But if you're using it on your local machine, you can skip Colab Code and just you can deal with Fast API and then finally save Fast API. So now at this point, Colab Code and Fast API are installed. So like I said, Colab Code is used only because I'm writing this on Google Colab, and Fast API because of course we are going to build our API using Fast API. So import both these classes, and then first you initiate Colab Code on port 12,000, and then you say I don't want VS Code, so VS Code is false. And then now we are getting into the Fast API section where we have got a title, which is, I'm calling it open source Grammarly API alternative, a description with Gramformer and Fast API, and then I'm going to call the version. So again, I'm not doing this for a production level setup, so I'm just skipping the logging part, but you definitely need logging if you're going to use it for a production level setup. So now I'm calling my GF inference none, which is like I'm initiating a none object, and I'm saying at every time of startup of this API, please load this model and then make the GF inference a global object. So once that is done, that is my first section. And then the second section is, so you can see this decorator is called on an event, which is startup. This decorator is called on a post call. So ideally I can do it with a get call, which is not quite right to do it. If it is on a get call, I can just make the call easily on browser and show you the result, but because it's a post call, it needs a little bit of workaround. But because we are passing a sentence which is going to change every time, it is ideal to design your API with a post call. So I will also link in the YouTube description about the standards of how you can define your API, so it can help if you're going to actually turn it into an actual project. So we have a post call and we have an endpoint which is /API/ and then we have going to give the input sentence there. So this is how our endpoint is defined, and I have an async function. It's not required for you to have an async function, but you can keep it async if you are going to deal with multiple calls every time. So the next thing is I'm going to simply say my input sentence is a string, and when I get my input sentence, I'm going to say GF correct. I should really do GF inference correct, right? Yeah, GF inference correct, and then my GF inference correct will correct the sentence and then give the output corrected sentence to the output sentence. I'm going to take the first element of the output sentence and then I'm going to call it prediction. I'm going to return it as a JSON with prediction, and then if there is an error, I'm going to log it as a something went wrong, and I'm going to return the prediction as error. So this is a very simple script. We just took whatever we had written, and very simply we have completely turned into a fast API code. Ideally, if you're going to have one single line of code, you need to remember that you need the Colab code, you need the fast API, and you need the Gramformer code, and you need to import torch, set seed value, and you don't have to download the model because we are going to load the model. So this is how the final code would look if you're going to just have that one script, but I'm just showing you every section individually so that it makes sense for you about which one you should use, which one you shouldn't use. So let's run this. Okay, I hope the API is created successfully, but how do we know that? We know that only if we serve this API. So let's serve the API. So run app, which will launch or serve the API. So you can see that this is the URL for us. So when you open there, you can see you wouldn't see anything because we have not this is not the endpoint that we have, and you can see that HTTP this is not found, it's a 404. So what is our endpoint? Our endpoint is /API, but again, even if you use /API, now you're going to get an error. So let me give he like me so much. I know it's a creepy sentence, but yeah, it says method not allowed because this is how you make a get request call, but you want to make a post request. So what we ideally need in this case is we need to go to the docs, where we have a Swagger UI, so we can test it out. So if you're going to use it with a live API, you don't have to do anything that I'm actually doing it. You might have something called a Postman or Postwoman or any utility to make API calls or even curl calls, so you can make it with that. But just for demo purpose, I'm going to open the docs and show you how to make the call. So docs. Once I open the doc, you can see open source Grammarly API alternative 1.0, and then you see within the docs, this is the only endpoint that we have got currently, which is post call, and then this is our endpoint. So you can click try it out and then give a sentence that you want to try it out. So let's give a different sentence, which is he like me so much that I want I miss okay, I think he like me so much is fine. Okay, let's try this. Otherwise the sentence is becoming more creepy. Okay, so I said he like me so much, and then it corrects and gives me the prediction, which is he likes me so much. So let's try with one more thing. And the other aspect that I wanted to highlight is we can have duplicate tabs, make multiple calls. So which is one is he like me so much, what do I say, I love write because it give me pleasure. Okay, let's run it and then see. So it says I love writing because it gives me pleasure. So again, it has corrected the sentence, so you can have another sentence also doing the same thing. So basically what it does is you give a sentence and this endpoint, and then it's going to return this response, which is going to give you the corrected sentence. So at this point, we have successfully built an API for grammar correction, where you can input a text and then it would give you output a corrected text, and we are serving that API using fast API from Google Colab. And then the grammar correction library that we have used is Gramformer, and this is exactly what we set out to do in this video. So before we wind up, I would like to thank the open source developers Prithviraj, Sebastian for API, and then Abhishek Thakur for Colab Code for making these amazing open source libraries that enable us to do or build such an applied NLP solution with so much simplicity. And also that I would like to remind you that if you like any of their repos, go to their GitHub, actually star their repo and give them a shout out. That would mean a lot to them. And if you can support in any other ways that you would like to support them. And if you like this video, please click thumbs up. And also all these all the links, Google Colab link, so you don't have to start coding from scratch. This Google Colab notebook will be there in the YouTube description. You can just click it, go to files, and then save a copy in your own drive, and then just run everything. You will get your own link. And another aspect is, if you're going to use Colab Code, then you need to remember that it is using ngrok as a service. So ngrok's URL will keep on changing every time, so you cannot give this URL to somebody and then expect it to work for the entire day. So that is something that you need to keep in mind. This is good for prototyping, but if you want to productionize, you might have to do some sanity work, but the core that we have shown here is going to stay same, and then you can even build an open source Grammarly API alternative. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section. Otherwise, I would really love to know your feedback. Please subscribe to the channel, and then I would see you in the next video. Thank you so much. Take care of yourself.